Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. So I'm thrilled to be joined by a globally recognized supply chain transformation expert and consultant with over 3 decades of transforming business performance of mid-market and Fortune 500 companies. That's Art Koch. And Art has increased corporate valuations by over $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion, utilizing his proprietary methodologies to improve customer loyalty, reduce inventory by over $250 million, and increase EBITDA by $100 million plus annually. He has a new book. It's called The Supply Chain Revolution, Unlocking the Sustainable Profit Chain. Art Koch, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Shalom. Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely. And, bottom line, the big idea over here is that to transform to a supply chain organization, it does take a deep dive in a solid buddy system. And I know you talk a lot about some of these things in your book. So I'm excited to explore this with you. But tell us a little bit about your background, Art, that led to writing The Supply Chain Revolution, becoming known as the subject matter expert in the area.
Well, anybody in the Midwest has heard of Flint, Michigan. I grew up in Flint, Michigan as a journeyman machinist, watched Flint implode, watched people become obsolete, and I told myself that I needed to go to college, do something different. Fortunately, I got into some good programs, and I worked real hard not to be obsolete and my goal is to help businesses out by improving their operations and their supply chain. And in the book, I talk a lot about scuba diving, and I want other people that are working in their careers to use their outside passions as channels to help them solve problems that are complex. And they can sleep on it, or they can go hiking, or they can go skydiving, whatever it may be. And they come up with really great solutions if they turn off their work brain and let it simmer in the background.
Absolutely. So what is the biggest problem that's facing SCM? We're going to use that acronym a little bit in this conversation, supply chain management organizations.
The biggest issue I've seen in the past 4 years has been talent. Organizations, so many people are retiring or stepping out of the workforce and getting gig jobs. So there's a big drain on having middle level or some gray-haired or senior people in roles that have been around the block a few times. And the second thing dovetailed into it is, I feel, lack of professionalism. We take it for granted that we need CPAs, we need engineers, or we need HR professionals. And too often businesses will say they'll wing it with supply chain, and we have to look at it as a profession.
I'm chatting with Art Koch, who has written the book, The Supply Chain Revolution, Unlocking the Sustainable Profit Chain. And Art, from your perspective, what's the biggest misunderstanding many organizations have about supply chain management?
I always like to give packets of 2 or 3 things. One of the things is that inventory is an appreciating asset. Too often businesses feel that having a lot of inventory on their balance sheet makes them competitive, or it appreciates in value. And inventory is a depreciating asset. And the second thing is, too often people think having a lot of inventory improves customer service. In most cases, having too much inventory reduces your customer service.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about inventory. I mentioned that in your intro, in your bio. But Art, I think it's fair to say, I hope this isn't an exaggeration, that you believe that inventory is evil. Why is that so?
The reason why I think, first, let me preface it with, I know all businesses, any business that has products going to consumers, they have to have inventory, and it's the lifeblood of their business and their organization. However, too often people have too much inventory. And what I mean by the reason why I say inventory is evil, inventory is there to hide or buffer against problems. And when you hide or mask problems or use inventory to buffer against it, you are delaying problem resolution. And when you delay problem resolution, that eats into your profits.
Interesting. Absolutely. Again, I'm chatting with Art Koch, the author of The Supply Chain Revolution, Unlocking the Sustainable Profit Chain. So that book, it's fantastic. And Art, clue us in. What's the main premise of the supply chain revolution?
The book focuses on the right tools, having people or growing people. I talk about finding genius in the castaways within your organization, getting people engaged, and building processes. That's kind of the top premise, but buried into that is that it's written for CEOs and CFOs to know what questions to ask their supply chain team and better how to help them. It's written for supply chain professionals and those coming up to know how to work with their CEOs or CFOs and their boardroom. And then underneath that is what I've learned out in industry. Uh, Individuals come out of universities or certification programs, and they're given a wonderful body of knowledge, and it's handed to them, and it said, here, go fix our business. The big thing is they don't know how to apply them and bridge the gap between what they've learned and what they're expected to deliver, which I feel the three things are: building a better corporate culture, gaining loyal customers, and improving profitability. But when you look at, there's a gulf or a big gap between the foundations that you learn and getting there. And the book is about how to bridge that in a group of areas.
Okay, so I'm going to go wild in this conversation for a moment, and I'm going to bring up a totally different topic. But for you, it's not really that much of a different topic, and that's scuba diving.
Okay.
You bring a lot of parallels into the supply chain revolution on how supply chain professionals are just like scuba instructors. So what's the link over here? Why in the world did he bring in two totally different topics, and how in the world did he bring it all together?
Shalom, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. I'm an avid scuba diver, and I say scuba diving saved my life and it saved my career. I'm a workaholic, and all I did was work, work, work. And when it come time when they'd make me take a vacation, I didn't have anything to do. And I would sit at home and be bored. Well, one day I went driving by a shop and it says, learn to dive today. And I went and signed up. But what I've learned through diving is it gives me a chance to settle my brain and get quiet, all of the noise of work. And as I did that, I solved problems. So when I was setting out to write the book, I said, a lot of clients I go into nicknames Scuba and, Art's a diver and so on and so forth. So they know me as a diver. So I thought, well, let me put that in there. And I did the first couple chapters, and it just kind of fell into place, and it worked out really well. For me, I think it worked out well, and I think it gives the reader something else to read about, and I think it gives them a good parallel or analogies besides just business solutions.
No question about it. Again, I'm chatting with Art Koch, the author of The Supply Chain Revolution, Unlocking the Sustainable Profit Chain. And in our very brief time remaining, many of our listeners are in the small business community, entrepreneurs. And maybe when you talk supply chain, they're thinking very large organizations. And in many cases, that may be true. But what message would you have for a fellow entrepreneur that may be tuning in? What can they put into practice from your book, and why should they want to pick up a copy?
Well, I think the biggest thing to pick up a copy is to learn what the fundamentals are and learn what questions to ask the team that's doing it, working in your area, in your company. The other thing is look for a fractional executive to come in and help. If you're a small business, you might not be able to afford an individual immediately that's out of one of the big schools or one of the certification programs. However, you can afford and you must afford some professional to come in to help you look around the corners of what's going on with supply chain. And I think it's really important to get somebody that will give you the unfiltered truth and act as an accountability partner. If somebody is not doing that for you, you got the wrong person. So I think at the end of the day, get a fractional person to help you out in supply chain while you're smaller. And as soon as you get a decent size, go after getting a professional in the department.
Well, it's a great read, Art, and I want to make sure our listeners can find it. How can they find this book, and how can they get in touch with you?
go to the supplychainrevolution.com, and that will take you to the page, or you can go to Arthur Koch, Koch, MGT.com, and that's my webpage. Again, the supplychainrevolution.com or Arthur Koch, which is Koch, MGT.com.
Well, congratulations to you, Art. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise. A quick break for some headlines commercials. When we come back, we've got a lot more small business jobs and entrepreneurship. Don't touch that dot.